Labo has had a tumultuous road since launching last year. While each kit has met with generally favorable reviews, it has never been able to appeal to the wider Switch install base. That is, until Labo VR. While we don't have sales numbers just yet, initial reports suggest promising sales for the kit, and perhaps a turning point for Nintendo's weird cardboard creations. I'm John Reardon, and I'm joined by Neal Ronahan and Casey Gibson for this review of the fourth Labo Toy-Con kit, VR. You'll start by constructing a VR viewer. It's a relatively quick and easy build that quickly gets you into the experience. The Nintendo Switch slides easily right into the back of the viewer. An optional safety cap is also included to prevent your Switch from sliding back out, though in my experience, the Switch fits quite snugly into its pocket. As has already been expounded upon thoroughly by the internet and by ourselves, the viewer does not include a head strap. While it's reasonably easy to fashion your own, it feels like a major oversight. This is only heightened by some of the included mini-games that require you to use a Joy-Con in one hand while holding the viewer in the other. It is simply not a comfortable way to play. Luckily, the rest of the builds feel a bit more natural to use without a head strap. If you purchase the starter kit version of the Labo VR, the blaster is going to be your primary Labo experience outside of the headset itself. Fittingly, it also represents a sizable part of the Labo VR as a whole. Featuring two modes, both a single-player campaign and a multiplayer party game, the blaster is a substantial addition to your Labo VR. The construction phase is quite involved, and what results is very impressive. While nowhere near the complexity of the Labo robot, the blaster build is similarly focused on constructing intricate inner workings. What results is a shotgun-like weapon that not only has a working trigger, but must be cocked before it can be fired. Pulling the trigger causes a piston inside the blaster to come crashing forward, providing some great feedback when firing. Single player takes the form of a rail-line shooter. You move on a set course through various urban environments, shooting aliens as you go. While there are only 6 stages present, there is plenty of arcade-style high-score chasing to be had, along with an unlockable hard mode. Within the 6 stages, there is a surprising amount of variety. One stage sees you exploring dark subway tunnels, illuminated by lights that switch on and off if you shoot them. Others feature giant boss fights instead of the traditional rail line progression. Using the blaster feels very natural. The placement of the viewer gives the impression of looking down the sights of a gun, so it doesn't feel like you're awkwardly holding a VR headset to your face, even though you are. Also included is a multiplayer mode titled Kablasta, in which you hand the blaster back and forth with a friend. Kablasta is like playing Hungry Hungry Hippos, but with a shotgun. The goal is to shoot fruit into the opening and closing mouths of a bunch of hippos. If you manage to feed one, they'll join you. Whoever ends up with the most hippos wins. It doesn't have anywhere near the depth of the single-player mode, but as a fun way to quickly share Labo VR with a friend, it holds up well.
Among the 5 different objects included in the VR bundle, the camera is perhaps the most straightforward. As one would imagine, you'll be looking through the VR goggles into new areas to snap pictures, completing various missions along the way. While the 2 associated games themselves are rather shallow, it's a great proof of concept for friends and family to try VR. The actual camera is surprisingly sturdy and feels natural to hold no matter your experience with video games. Twisting the lens zooms in and out, but also produces a satisfying clicking sound, helping to add to the immersion. Once construction is complete, the 2 games you can dive into are Ocean Camera and House Camera. Ocean Camera drops you into the deep sea to complete over 40 different missions. These missions consist of snapping shots of certain fish, or even a collection of specific fish in one photo. While not that exhilarating, I found the experience itself to be very tranquil and relaxing. Being able to submerge deeper into a hidden chasm was interesting, and you can even attract fish to you with the use of food. This makes for some cool moments as fish swim up close and personal, showing you just how big some of these creatures are. For anyone familiar with the Variety Kit, you'll remember the fluff ball from the house, and this is exactly who you'll be interacting with in House Camera. Once again, with over 40 missions, there's a decent amount to do, but I found this experience to be far less interesting. You can stare at certain points within the house to change the environment, such as flooding the room with water, or be sent to different rooms completely, but it never felt that exciting. The fluff ball does do some cute animations, and feeding it jelly beans can change its color and expressions, but the experience was easily the most dull of the lot. Again, it's a cute way to show off VR, but with a smaller scope and less broad appeal than that of the Ocean camera. Taking a quick glance at the toy cons to build, the elephant is by far the strangest and easiest to overlook. What you might be doing with the elephant isn't so clear, but it turns out to offer some of the most robust game experiences. Construction is definitely more complex as it features the use of rubber bands to aid in the full movement of the trunk. However, once again, Nintendo does a fantastic job with the instructions, making what appears to be a difficult build relatively easy and problem-free. At first, I felt a bit apprehensive with moving the trunk around too much, but quickly realized it's more flexible than it appears. It does look a bit goofy, or downright frightening depending on who you ask, but you'll be sure to have a good laugh watching someone use it. Much like the other Toy-Con, there are two different experiences associated with the elephant, and oddly enough, neither actually features an elephant. The first is Doodle, a 3D drawing application. It features a few different styles of pencils, each with different thicknesses, and a number of different colors to choose from. The most interesting aspect is having free range of motion via the trunk to draw lines that start further away and move closer to you, or vice versa. The way the Joy-Cons are positioned in the trunk allows for them to be tracked within the game, and it feels incredible. You can create and save 3 new colors by mixing others together, and there's even a 2-player game where one person is given an object to draw, and the second person takes over the goggles to guess what it is. The creative folk will absolutely love Doodle, as it allows you to create some truly special and interesting pieces of 3D art. For those looking for a more game-like experience, look no further than Marble Run, easily my favorite Labo experience to date. Featuring 100 different 3D puzzles to work through, the objective is to get the marble through a ring. You'll be manipulating tons of different obstacles and elements in order to do so. Initially, it's as simple as moving a ramp into a missing spot to allow the ball to roll through the ring, but as you push forward, far more interesting elements are thrown into the mix. Fans, anti-gravity, spiral loops, and bouncy pads are just a few, but they can completely change how you approach a puzzle. Early on, you'll always be given the right tools to overcome the challenge, but as you unlock more difficult puzzles, you'll have the option of a few different pieces to work with. This allows for more freedom and creativity in finding solutions, something I found myself really enjoying. Sticking true to Labo's creative roots, you can also create your own puzzles using the different elements you've unlocked along the way. Just how much fun I had with both elephant experiences was truly shocking. I found myself losing track of time in Marble Run, which is not something I've run into with my previous experiences with Labo. The downside to that being that my right arm, the one controlling the trunk, would become tired after a while, but purely due to the longer play sessions. Fortunately, no one puzzle is too long, so being able to jump in and out is easy to do, but don't be surprised if you run into some arm fatigue yourself.
The Toy-Con bird might have the visual of you shoving your head up a bird's butt, but it's one of the more simplistic and easy to grasp additions to the Labo VR kit. The build takes some time, but it's not all that complex. At the end of the hour or two, you'll be left with the cardboard outline of a bird that comes to life once you place a Joy-Con in its head and attach it to your Toy-Con goggles. The core games used with the bird involve flying around an island, done by grasping near the bird's body and pressing down in unison to flap the wings. Turning is done by moving your head. The goal of this mode is to fly around the island looking for unhatched eggs and then completing food requests for them to hatch the egg. When hatched, a bird joins your flock and you resume your island discovery. It's a simple quest, but there's a joy found in flying around the island. I've experienced similar freeing movement sensations in my limited experience with other VR headsets. For better or worse, the screen on the Switch is lower resolution, so your draw distance isn't that crisp, and the view is always some shade of blurry, but thanks to the cartoony aesthetic, it never sullies the experience that adversely. This is one of the deeper Labo experiences, as it is kind of quite long. I'm not particularly subject to motion sickness, but out of all the games in the Labo VR kit, this seems potentially problematic here. Another avian-centric game is included in Bird Dash, where you race around different courses on the island as the bird. I preferred the more gentle rhythm of flying around in the exploration-focused game, but time trial races are tense and enjoyable. It makes me wonder what Nintendo could do with Mario Kart in Labo VR. Bird Dash does benefit the most from add-ons, found in the simple Toy-Con pinwheel and the weirdly charming Toy-Con wind pedal. The pinwheel is the stuff silly Nintendo ideas are made of. As it is what it is, it's just a pinwheel you hang off the goggles that you can blow to make the wheel spin, which is read by the IR camera on the Joy-Con. Used with the bird, it gives you a boost. So does the wind pedal, though that also has another functionality, mostly found in the frog jump game where you press the pedal to make a frog jump. When you do this, a gust of wind is blown in your face as, from a first-person view, you leap into the air. There's obstacles and stuff, it's really fun. On paper, it is absolutely the dumbest idea in a Labo VR kit, but in execution, it might be my favorite thing in all of Labo. The bird and wind pedal can also be used in a handful of the 64 included Plaza games, but those are all more experimental than deep, and that ultimately is where Labo VR echoes past Labo experiences to a mildly disappointing degree. While there is much more to do outside of a few of the core games, the experiences after building the Toy-Con are fleeting. Still, the VR elements are enjoyable, even if they're not comparable to high-end headsets. There is a lot of playfulness and joy found across the builds, the games, and the experiences that are well worth exploring, especially if you're searching for that old-school Nintendo Toymaker magic. The lack of a head strap might be an added bummer, but not enough to hold the Labo VR kit back from being the best Labo has to offer. If you enjoyed that review from me, John, and Casey, you can go check out more reviews. There's a bunch from me, John, and Casey. You can also check out a lot of other written content on NintendoWorldReport.com, more videos here at Nintendo World Report TV, and be sure to check out our Discord where you can talk about us and talk to us about things like, I don't know, the Labo VR kit. We also have a Patreon that you can support at patreon.com/NWR. Thank you so very much for watching, and I don't know, like, where do you want Labo to go from here? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Bye.